Hello, welcome to another episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. I'm Julie Podewitz, CEO and founder, and today I welcome Paula Rathgaber-Gomez to the show. Paula, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled you're here. I love talking to you, Paula. Paula is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Sequoia Living, based in San Francisco, California. Paula, tell us a little bit about you and Sequoia Living.
I will say that I think sales and marketing has been in my blood since I was a little girl. And you could say it started with selling Girl Scout cookies all the way to McDonald's. And the majority of my career has been in sales. I think it's the most honorable and noble profession there is. My last name, Rathgaber, and one reason I did keep it is my maiden name. And of course, I want to honor my husband with Gomez, but it means advice giver. And I feel like that fits me perfectly, because what else do we do as salespeople and as sales leaders and as coaches but give advice? So I feel like I've lived up to my name.
Your last name actually translates to advice giver?
Yes.
But you have not been in your profession.
So I have to keep it, right? I can't let go of that.
100%. I'm changing my name. I love that. Oh I love that. And of course, Gomez, and you have a beautiful granddaughter.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
a beautiful daughter as well. Let's not forget. Oh, wow. I love that, Paula. And a little bit about Sequoia Living.
The Sequoia is based in the San Francisco area, the Bay community. We have 4 CCRCs. Sequoia has been around for 60 plus years. In addition to that, we have 4 affordable housing apartment complexes. We have senior centers that we manage. The oldest one at the Aquatic Park right here in San Francisco. And then we also have a group of community services that are outreach and work at various affordable housing apartments, all for seniors, strictly for seniors.
Got it. You have beautiful communities. Beautiful. Yes.
They're all very unique to the area in which they are.
Yes. And they're all there are 4 CCRCs. So
yes.
Mm-hmm.
We have Walnut Creek. The one in where I am today is in San Francisco, 26 floors and amazing views of the bay and the ocean. We've got the Tamalpais, which is in Marin County, and then we have our community at Portola Valley, which is near Stanford. But that one is 40 plus acres. It's all flat. Then we've got the tower in San Francisco. So the communities definitely match the area in which they were built.
I think that's great. And senior living is like that, right? It's just hyper local specific.
Yes.
A company can have 50 communities, and we talk a lot about this in marketing, that a customer doesn't really care if they're in San Francisco. They don't really care what's going on in Tamalpais or in Omaha, Nebraska, or all over. They want to know what's going on in San Francisco, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I know that you and your teams work really, really hard to provide just a wonderful, wonderful lifestyle. And I'm a little bit envious at 20 floors plus, 15 floors plus, San Francisco Bay.
You can see the Golden Gate Bridge. It's just stunning views.
No kidding, stunning views. I worked for a while in San Francisco, and one of my little check the box was to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, okay. I haven't done that yet. That sounds like fun, but it's usually cold, so you got to wear a jacket.
Well, I think it was Ernest Hemingway that said the coldest winter he ever had was the summer in San Francisco.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was summertime, and a colleague of mine, it was a Saturday. I'm like, let's get on. I didn't have this on, but something like it. Beautiful. So beautiful. Gosh, Paula, this is the end of the year, end of 2023. So whenever you're listening to this, we're heading into the new year. I'm curious, what is one thing that you learned this year professionally?
I want to say it's professionally and personally. Hope endures. And I know we're at the end of the year, but we're still coming out of COVID. And everything we saw in the senior living industry that happened during COVID, and the deaths, right? And not being able to move in residents and having to scale back on activities, and almost where some residents that even stayed at home, not necessarily in our communities, but were locked in, and just what that did to them. But then coming out of that, how hopeful everyone is for things to improve, take the lessons that we learned and honor what happened there, but still move forward and still with a positive attitude and hopeful for what the future brings. So I think that's what I learned. Just the human spirit, how much that we can endure and still come out of things stronger and look back and be better. And I think what I learned this year is just to celebrate more and not take anything for granted, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think that was my biggest lessons, and to take that love for life and instill that in every aspect of my daily life.
That's human.
So I don't know if that's not too deep.
Not at all. Not at all. It sort of ties into, well, at any time, certainly. But sort of that end of year, how many kind of take stock, kind of look back, what did this year kind of bring personally, professionally, what are we kind of doing? And hope endures. I'm going to put that on my board.
Okay.
I love that, because you and I've had an opportunity to have some great conversation, and I love talking to you for many reasons, or listening to you really. And one of the reasons, Paula, is that you have, I would say, kind of like a unique, I don't know, it's not a spin, but the way you approach your professional, like your professional life, like in sales, because you're the VP of sales and marketing. So we're both in sales. Can you tell us a little bit about what is your approach in how you lead your team from a sales perspective? I mean, there's the mechanics, right? And those are phone calls and all, everyone has to do those, right? But beyond that, what do you instill in your team?
I think I definitely instill a sense of community, and that it takes, kind of not a pun on that, in that sense we are selling communities, but it takes the entire community to show what's so special about that community, what are the unique gifts and talents, and what's the energy that we can share with prospective residents and their families that are visiting. And I think that's the secret to success, is understanding this isn't a solo sport, and what we're doing is so much bigger than ourselves, that we need to make sure that everyone that we're involved in, and now I'm specifically talking about at the community, all the employees, the directors, the staff, understand that they are also part of that community and that circle of, I call it perfection, because it is perfection. When you can move into a community, your life can be perfection, but it takes all of them to make that happen. And when I start with a new sales team, we really work on, tell me about the staff. Tell me about who's working the front desk. Do they understand how important they are to every single person that calls on the phone, and to every resident, every family member that comes in? And are we celebrating with them? And are we sharing the story of those potential residents with our receptionists, so they know that what they do is so impactful on whether that person even makes a decision to visit our community, and also ultimately to move in? Because a community is a living organization, and it's the energy and the experiences of every single person that works there, as well as who lives there and who visits, that makes it what it is. And I think that's where you really have to start, is just, what is the essence, or what is the soul of that community? And are we celebrating, and are we making sure that every person's voice is being heard? Because if your staff feels heard, they get excited, they smile, they're willing to share, they come up with creative solutions, and they understand that they own everything that happens, right? It's not just maintenance's job to pick up the trash. If you feel like you really have an ownership, and what you do means so much and is so critical to the overall success, then that environment becomes contagious. And that's when I almost say it becomes much easier, much more enjoyable to be there and work together as a team. So that's the first thing I always focus on, is what do the people in that community feel about sales? What do they know about you? Do you know about them? Do you know their goals? Do you know their backgrounds? Because there's so much brilliance and talent in each person, and all of us have backstories. And it's not just our residents that are 60 years plus, but it's the people that are staffing our communities. And if we take the time to listen to them and ask for advice, it's amazing the ideas and the programs that can come from it. And that's when you can have a successful selling program.
I like that you said, or my take was how important to learn to instill how important they are and the
Yes.
impact they have. And so as I'm hearing you talk, what I hearing you say is like to have your sales or your new hires, or as you're working with the team to really get to know their team members, just like you would want them to, and they do with their prospects and families, on the level of I'm seeing you, I'm hearing you, and not just,
Yes.
hey, you're important, you're important, you're important, but you don't tell people they're important. You certainly can, but it's the message is really going to come out from your actions, right?
Right.
And
This demonstrative. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And that's
And
how you build that's how at Sequoia you really reinforce that team, because Tim was just on a webinar, like we gotta have a team, it can't be one person. That's kind of how you get it going and support that?
absolutely. And you hear their stories, you hear what frustrates them.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can come up with an idea that maybe makes their life just a little bit easier. It could be something minor like moving a trash can or where the time clock is. But if you don't give an opportunity to say, how are you doing today? And giving people the chance to respond, but also pick up if they're just like, oh, I'm okay. Saying, why are you okay? What would make you feel really good today? So taking those few seconds so they know that you really care about them, because we always say, hi, how are you? And I hate it when people walk away and they don't even wait for my response, because then it's every human being in every relationship they have, and this could be at 5 seconds at a drive-through at McDonald's, it's, can I trust you? Do you care about me? And those are the secrets, I think, to impacting people during your life and also with your team at work and the prospects you meet with. Am I demonstrating that they can trust me? And am I doing things, whether it's in my actions or my words, that show that I care about them? And that is my mantra of how I live and what I would like my sales team to emulate.
Am I demonstrating I care about you?
Yes.
Someone said to me once, and it stuck and it's so profound, is that the quality of your life is the quality of the questions you ask yourself, because the questions we ask ourselves is what prompts our mind to wheel around and then
Mm-hmm.
lead us, because our mind leads us to places literal and figurative. If you're asking yourself, am I demonstrating I care about people? And that's the question we're asking. It, I can't imagine that your actions aren't going to shift. Because if that is you said you kind of your mantra, by demonstrating I care,
Mm-hmm.
because your brain likes to come up with answers. And you can say, well, yes, yes, yes. But we continue asking, I'm going to ask myself that every day. Am I demonstrating I care about you? I love that. I
And
love that.
that's when you ask yourself that question, if you can't answer it, then you truly don't know that person,
Right.
right?
Right. Or like, well, I'm not sure if I am. I think that, and we don't always have an answer immediately to everything, but instead of asking ourselves, like, why is this happening to me? Or how come nobody is moving right now? Or how come no one's picking up the phone? And you're asking yourself those questions,
Mm-hmm.
your mind just, there's really no the quality there.
Right.
What could I do to demonstrate I care about somebody today? Is a much better
Exactly.
question, because maybe I'll pick up the phone, or maybe I'll swing by and do a home visit, or maybe I'll learn a little bit about one of my residents
Yes, exactly. And our staff.
and the staff. Yeah.
It starts with the staff and it ends with the staff. And I think I shared a story with I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but I had one community that stayed full, and there was always a wait list, right? So when someone would leave, we were always on, when can we get this, for industry terms, room terms, right? And I need it done quickly. And
Right.
the staff felt comfortable enough to say, I don't feel good about this. You know, this person, and let's say the resident passed away, and it's only been a day, and you're pushing me to have to grieve very quickly because all you care about the numbers. You just want another person in. And I was so appreciative that they explained how they felt, because that's a lot of times that is the perception with sales, right? We don't care about the people. And I was able to say, I appreciate, first of all, you sharing that with me. And we will continue to honor the resident that passed away. They've changed all of our lives for the better. But I want you to think about the wait list we have. And although this was the saddest day in this individual who's passed away, their loved one's life, I can make a phone call and say, guess what? We have an opening. So for that person, today's their best day of their life. And I challenge you to understand how much it means to that person waiting for that phone call to know they can move into our community. And their life can start getting better immediately, but it's all based on how quickly can we get them in. And that's where I talk about having that sense of purpose in that community, that everybody recognizes that what they're doing is so important for the people that live here now and the people that will be coming in soon. And that's where if you can have that sense of purpose, and then you talk about, can I trust you? Do I care about you? And for that family, I was able to make that phone call, right? And let them know that I do care about them. They can trust me. And today's the day, because I can trust my team to know that they're going to be able to do what they need to do in order to help that person make the transition into the community. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. So many takeaways on that story, Paula. The first that resonates with me is that the person, whomever that was, did feel comfortable enough or felt strongly enough to say something.
Yes, and we celebrate that.
To celebrate, I feel like maybe, you're not you don't care about George, who passed away. Instead of allowing maybe that feeling of to build up inside, and like, oh, Paula, she doesn't care about anybody, and all she cares about is her commissions checked, and I'm mourning George, and he's a great guy, and she don't, and then that sort of might build the next time, and meanwhile, you don't know that the maintenance, in this case, maybe maintenance or environmental services, feels that way, but you get a sense of like, well, how come they're not responding? You do care about George. But like you said, you care also about the family that you can impact, that all of y'all can impact. And so it's that being, I think you go back to being seen and heard, and empathy, that you have enough team building to trust, because it does take trust to say, like, Paula, I'm a little uncomfortable, or it feels to me like you don't care about George. And that gives you an opportunity to explore. Yeah. I mean, how many of us, raise your hand, are guilty of brushing it under the rug, but you really don't get rid of it? It's like that speck of sand that happens 5-10 times, and now you got this big old mound that's bubbling up, and then you're really mad.
Yes. And then there's no trust and no conversation, and then you're just complaining about somebody's attitude or dragging their heels or what have you.
Yeah, I think that's, and we have talked about that, we all, like, in a community, in a business, we'll use a community as an example, that we each come to the table with our agenda based on what our role is and our responsibilities. And the purpose is to serve the residents, families, team members, right? If you're maintenance, you're going to have a different to-do list, and you have different skills than maybe someone in engagement and activities. One isn't more important than the other, but we do have, sometimes we get tunnel vision. Activities, I got to get this. And oh my gosh, the chairs need to be set up, and the music, and it's not that people aren't caring. It's that I've just got so much pressure, and I got to, and then this person's got all, and we fail, I think, in those cases to take the blinders off and do the listening and the empathy. So kind of circling back to your first point, of that team approach and how important it is to reinforce or just start with that.
And you circles, or I go back to the receptionist. And when I started as a sales counselor and the receptionist would transfer a call to me, I would make a point after I got off the phone call to go to the front desk and say, thank you so much for forwarding that call to me. I just spoke to a woman, and I would give the story. So now that voice becomes a human being to that receptionist. And now she's excited, right? Because she has an opportunity to help change some lives. And I got to tell her the feedback. And sometimes I'd say, it's great, this person's coming in for a visit. Or maybe they, I could also say it turned out that we weren't exactly what they're looking for, but it was, I'm so glad that you forwarded it. And then we talk about it. So then when people start coming in the community, the receptionist gets excited and it's like, I remember talking to her on the phone, and is she the one who had the son or what have you? And the whole environment changes, right? And the attention to the details and the excitement of company, I call it companies coming. It's not a tour. We're going to a home, right? It's different than saying I've scheduled a tour. It's companies coming to see our house. It would become contagious and everybody would get excited. And you do that with everyone. And at the next day when we would have stand up, I would always share, this family came in to visit. They loved the pool, or they thought the flowers looked beautiful. So thank you, environmental services, for taking care of the garden. That really stood out to them and that impacted them. And now we're on the top 3 of their list because of that. So people want to hear that what they do, are they doing it well, and how does it impact other individuals? So I always make it a habit of going back to all the departments and giving them the positive feedback and the negative feedback. If someone said anything, it smelled really great, they thought that, this was the best smelling community they visited, or whatever it is. So then it shows people then what they're doing matters, and it matters to that person that's coming in to visit our community. We all want to know what we do matters, and it does, but sometimes we may not think it's exciting enough. So you have to then tie it back together, how what they do is impacting the lives of these residents and the families that will be visiting if their loved one moves in, because then we're touching thousands and thousands of people, and we can forget that. So I think that's really the secret, is making sure that everybody understands how important they are, what they do, how it affects that visit, if we're talking from a sales perspective.
Yeah, well, from a human perspective, you said it's a habit, right? You said it's a habit for you to be doing this. And I go to, well, it's not a habit until a person does it over and over and over again.
True.
And so for you doing this, you've done it for hundreds of times. So it's a habit for you.
Yes.
And my challenge to myself or anyone listening is, if it's not a habit, to challenge yourself to do it, or take a bite of it, right? And just write something down. Am I demonstrating I care about you? And challenge, take it in little bits until it becomes, because the more times we do something, it becomes a habit, right?
Right.
And it's kind of like in your DNA, but because you've done it, and because you believe so strongly that people do matter. People do matter, and what we do matters.
Yes.
Yeah, and it does.
We have the ability to affect so many lives, and it's the residents that are moving in, and it's their families and their children and their grandchildren, and it's our staff and their staff's children, because what we give out, that's all we have, right? That's and how we impact people. If we can affect a positive change and they spread that to another person and another person, people, and I say this a lot, people to the sales team and also to the staff of the communities, people who never know your name are going to be impacted by what you do. We have so much power, and we can either be a positive impact or a negative impact. And I think if you can walk through your day, again, recognizing that what I do matters, and whether it's a smile, looking someone there in the eye, and the difference it can make in that person's life, and then their attitude on how they relate and how they respond to people can change based on your example. And isn't that what that's living eternally, right? Because something that we've shown someone continues to live on.
And I love your never stop growing too.
Sequoia, yes.
I love it. Sequoias never stop growing. My mother, so I'm very blessed to have the best mother ever, but she wakes up and this is her habit as well. And I don't think she was born with this habit. I think she adopted it and learned it, and was who can I impact today?
Mm-hmm.
How can I impact, or what can I do to positively impact somebody? And when you ask yourself that question every morning, that what I mean, it's so admirable to me. It could be, I mean, it is stopping into a neighbor's, or you could positively impact a smile,
Yes.
from a stranger, or a gosh, I really like your sweater, a compliment, anything. And you're
Mhm.
right, we do. And what we do matters, and the ripple effect. So it's certainly our residents or team members, one another, and then on and on
Mhm.
and on, legacy. And yeah, and I love how you lead, because you do truly lead the way that you live, and you don't need to tell people you care. It comes out of you, Paula. It really does. It
Well,
really
thank you.
does. And I'm going to have you back on at least once a quarter, because I get so much, uh, not just motivation, but I learn so much, and you remind me, I think, and everybody, what we should be thinking about, and how that then should dictate how we live our life, and what we do.
Yes,
So
and this is supposed to be a sales call, right? So if you're really listening to that prospect, that helps you determine next steps, right? Even the next seconds. If you're truly just listening to them and trying to, and we say, oh, we're trying to make a relationship. No, are you really trying? Look, see them as a human being. Just spend some time chatting and learning about them, and that's when the magic happens. And then the next steps just are so natural because you know what to do next based on what they've told you and what they've shared with you. And then you don't have to have all this brainstorming. Should I send flowers? Should I send a pizza? They like golf. I'll get golf balls. Just by being open and saying the purpose of this is to experience this individual and celebrate who they are. And then I'm going to see how I can help them. It makes all those next steps much simpler to come up with because you won't have to think about it. You'll know what to do that will be impactful.
Paula, uh, Paula, the advice giver. I love it. I
That's all I
absolutely
do.
love it. Thank you so much for joining me, Paula. I know we had some technical difficulties last time we tried to jump on, and I'm glad that everybody who doesn't know you can get to know you, and that you spent some time with us today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And if you know people who might like to hear what Paula has to say, please share and make it a great day. And we'll see you again on another episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast.
And
Thanks
I want
again.
to thank you for everything you do too. So
My pleasure.
thank you.